gems of information with you guys today. I welcome John Webb. Let me bring John onto the screen. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us and with the people that are watching. It's a joy to have you here. So,
thank you.
John, would you mind just starting by giving us a bit of an intro, a bit of background into you, into your journey and what's brought you to where you are today?
Sure. Like most people, my path is kind of a curved one, no direct line to entrepreneurship. I started out of college as a budding engineer and got recruited into the space shuttle program and actually helped build the engines that go right in the spacecraft itself. So one of the few times in your life where you run into a problem, it is rocket science, and you can say that it is.
I love that. I love that. Do you know, John, if I was you, I would be going around going, it's not rocket science. Actually, it is rocket science, right?
So with that, I liked understanding technical things, but I realized later on after working on the shuttle program that I didn't feel the need to do them every day. Mm-hmm. So when I went to grad school, I went for business and I got an MBA, and that allowed me to segue into other industries, and I ended up in the healthcare industry. And once in the healthcare industry, I ran different offices, regions, and then actually I ran Canada for our US subsidiary and ran big divisions of big companies. And in that role, I eventually ended up where I had a growth division of a very large Fortune 100 company and had to do two things: either start new companies from using the core competencies of the company, or go outside, scour the earth, find small startups, integrate them and scale them up and rebrand them. And so I was basically doing venture capital work within the confines of a big company. And so when that company decided that it wasn't in the growth business anymore, it was actually in the survival business because of the environment, I jumped the fence and went into venture capital, which is where I sit today. So today, basically, I run a company called Quantum Reach, which is a VC hybrid where we do three things. We either help strategy and execution for early stage companies. We help for companies to raise money. And the third thing, just as important, the first two, is we open doors. So it's that access at a high level within the corporate structures of America. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. What an interesting path. What an interesting journey, right? From rocket science to venture capitalist. I like it. I like it. Wonderful, wonderful. And what are we talking about today, John? What's the subject area? Give us a brief overview, and then we can kick in.
Sure. So today, we're talking about something near and dear to everyone's heart, which is how do you get funding for your endeavor? And obviously, it's not as easy as if you've ever seen the show Shark Tank. People don't really give you money after just 10 minutes worth of presentation. It takes a lot more hard work. And so today, I'm going to talk to you about the path to get yourself ready to even make the ask.
Wonderful.
And hopefully show that you could be successful in landing some funding to move forward.
Beautiful. I'm excited to hear and see the presentation, man. Shall we dive straight in?
Sure. I'm happy to.
Let me bring that up. And John, in your own time, man, away you go. Looking forward to it.
Okay. So first I will say, you're looking at the first slide here.
Yep. We can see the first slide. Yeah, we're good.
And, if you've ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire, where the famous word is, show me the money. Well, before they can show you the money, you need to show them the credibility and your ability to execute for you to get the money. So you have to show something first before the money comes. And that's what we're going through today. First thing I have to say is this slide here, it's by an unknown author, but I think it's excellent, and I think unknown is very wise. It says the dream is free, hustle is sold separately. So like anything else, even if you baking a cake, whatever it may be, there's always a special ingredient where people have their recipe that makes them different, that makes their particular product or whatever they're doing, make it really have some type of sizzle or buzz. And that for you, that's hustle. And so that special ingredient for almost all entrepreneurs is how much hustle are you willing to put in to make this thing work? Because a lot of people may have the same idea. They may have the same level of execution, people who can help them, etc. But sometimes those who hustle the most are the ones who finish first. Now, we'll start at the beginning. Light bulb comes on, you have an idea. And many people come to me with lots of ideas. And the first thing, that we have to level set is there's a big difference between an idea and an opportunity. And you really need to distinguish the two, because ideas are plentiful, but can they be monetized? Are they scalable? Can it be sustainable? All those things need to go into place. It's nice to have an idea, but not every idea is an opportunity. So let's talk about vetting an opportunity. These four ways, I think, are critical to seeing what your opportunity really can bring to you. First, is it something that people seem to need or want? Now, there's a big difference from that versus maybe you projecting what you like onto what you think they may like. So you need to really find out whether or not this is you or this is them, because you're not buying your own product, they are. So you need to see if you're filling their needs and their wants, not your own. Second thing is, can it be implemented? Is it something that, it's a great idea? You have, people might want flying cars, but can you really implement that right now? Is the market ready? Third, does it create value? So people may want something, but to choose your particular product, your particular service, it needs to have a special value that they will make them make that selection. So, again, if there's something that you have that you're trying to promote, think about what is it intrinsically about it that differentiates it, that shows some type of value for the user. And then the fourth is, are there available resources right now? Can you get this up and going? Or is it something that's going to take you 3-4 years to get to the marketplace because of different approvals, because of maybe there's an ingredient or there's something about the service that isn't quite ready yet to be launched. So all those things come into play. So I'll use my experience with the shuttle as a good example. When we first started to build the shuttle, the temperature gradient needed to power the shuttle into the space was too great for any man-made material at that time. So that meant the engine would basically burn itself up. So there needed to be a breakthrough. And the breakthrough was, we had a scientist who created an alloy called Naralloy Z. And Naralloy Z was the breakthrough to allow us to actually build the shuttle engine and have it sustain the temperature gradient necessary to power it. But that took a lot of time and effort. So, we're not building the shuttle today. And you can see that there's magnitudes of issues that come when you have to create something to go forward. So for yourself, unless you're, a very patient person, you need to think about, hey, what are my ideas right now? What my opportunities right now? Can I get this done today in short order? Or is this something that's way in the future and maybe there's something else I can work on the interim and wait to the right time to launch this particular service or product? Another thing about opportunity is it shows up when you least expect it. It's not always as planned. So in this particular slide, we're talking about two guys, Matthew Maloney and Mike Evans. I'm not sure if many of you have ever heard of these guys, but I think you have heard of their product or their service. So these guys were basically computer programmers, and they were doing searches for apartments.com. And they worked very late into the night. They're night owls, and that's when they got a lot of their work done. And what they discovered was not apartments. What they discovered is, working late at night, they got hungry. Yet at that time, they'd have to drive around, get the paper menus from the different stores to find out who was open late, what they could order, who delivered, who didn't deliver, who they had pick up, etc. And so they actually had an idea, and their idea was Grubhub. And as you can see, Grubhub in short order is now with 80,000 restaurants, has almost 15 million users, and over $1 billion in revenue. Wow. So you can see the ideas can come from things that were not intended. So you always have to keep your eye open. Another place that, I'll pick 3M Corporation as an example. The number one product from 3M Corporation is Post-it notes. Post-it notes were a mistake. They had someone working on a super glue that got diluted too much. And before they threw it away, there was another person who said, hey, I'm trying to use something for my hymnlets at church that I could put in like a bookmark that could be easily removed. And they used that application and it worked. And that was the birth of Post-it notes. So not as it was intended to be a super glue, but now it's a super money maker. Mm. So the other thing is, we had a wise person in Unknown About the Hustle. An even wiser person is Aristotle. And here it says, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And this is so true. Because if you don't know about yourself and what you're trying to accomplish, then others can't help you do it. So you need to look within yourself, look in the mirror as you start to launch anything to say, what am I doing? What is it about? What is my end goal of what I'm trying to achieve? So, who are you? I always tell people that it's not what you sell, it's what you stand for. So a big part of what you do when you start your company, your product, your service is the culture that surrounds it. And so is it going to be about, are you trying to help people? You're trying to solve a world problem? You're trying to solve maybe just a personal problem, but, get a good idea, a sense where you are and how you're going to operate, because that's going to dictate everything, and it plays out in the end. And you can see it in the corporations today that get launched. The differences because of the culture dictates, how they go about their business, and quite frankly, how successful they are in the long term. As far as an entrepreneur type, here are the 7 basic types, because again, people usually don't wake up one morning and say, I'm an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's something that either causes you to go that route, or it's something that's always been in you to express yourself, and this is your way to do it because you can't do it within the confines of a corporate environment. So an essentialist is just that. It's someone who perhaps they had a job and lost a job, can't find a new job, and now they sit there and say, what can I do differently, and how can I run my own enterprise until the time comes where I'm rehirable? And therefore they're kind of almost forced into entrepreneurship, and it's out of necessity. A do-gooder, pretty self-explanatory. Someone who's more about social causes, wants to help people, help others, help the environment, help the world, and therefore they have more of a social enterprise focus when they launch their endeavor. Experts, this tends to be people like computer programmers who have a specific expertise that they can now apply to solve other issues and problems. So that's why you see so many things launched from the computer realm, because their programming is one of the best ways to be an entrepreneur these days, and also sometimes lower cost than others where you need to build a physical plan, etc. Artist, this is for those who like more freedom of expression or creative. So doing things like, you might say, hey, I'd like to digitize art auctions or something like that. That's what would come from someone that has an artist type of bent. Franchisees, this one I call the entrepreneur with training wheels, because here you can be an entrepreneur, but someone has the cookbook ready for you. So they show you how it's done, what makes money, what doesn't make money, how to go about it, how to use their supply chain, etc. So to me, there's no shame in getting help and starting this way. If you have some money to put down to get access to the cookbook, to be able to use their name, it's a great way to get started, and then maybe you can branch out on your own. But it's also, it does have restraints itself. So you have to pick wisely if this is the route you want to go. A builder is someone who they want to build it from scratch. So they want to build their whole enterprise and really take on all comers. And this is the bold type of entrepreneur you see, with a big personality, A-type personality. And then finally, lifestyle. People who actually find something they love to do, really aren't trying to make all the money in the world, but they're trying to just have that support their lifestyle. So you see a lot of people like in New York City that own a convenience store and they live on top. That's a lifestylist. This is their lifestyle. They live there. They can make enough money to get by and do what they want to do, and they're happy in their work, and their whole family pitches in. Now, let's talk about risk, because risk is a big reason why many people never proceed. Many people have an idea, they have some of the ingredients, but yet they may not be ready. They don't feel they can take that leap, etc. So here's another piece of the puzzle that really allows you to decide whether or not you are an entrepreneur and you are ready to take on the world in whatever you're trying to launch, because many people are dissuaded by the risk that comes with it. So let's talk about 3 people who weren't. First, T.S. Eliot, the poet, very apropos, says, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. So as you can see here, these are the boats for those historians, Christopher Columbus. And Christopher Columbus was told that the world was flat. yet he's set sail to prove that it was not. Okay. At that time, a real fear, he was willing to defy it. The same is true, for others. So if you look at these three, Columbus on the upper right-hand side, below him, Steve Jobs, one of the greatest visionaries and risk takers in the business world that has ever seen. What we used to, many people have an iPhone or a version of it on an Android, and this is all based on Steve Jobs. And then on the left, we have a contemporary, someone who today is doing just that and defied all risk. And this particular person is Hamdi Yulkaya. And Hamdi came to the U.S. from Turkey, started to go to school, was kind of bored with it, ended up working on a farm in upstate New York, and spotted an ad for an old plant. Decided that the yogurt in the U.S. was too runny, wasn't as thick and flavorful as it could be. He was used to Greek yogurt. So he decided that he would buy this plant for next to nothing and get started and make this new yogurt. And many people said, you're wasting your time. Kraft, which owned the plant, had given it up because they really couldn't make it work. How are you going to do it? And he got the employees to buy in that if they stayed with him, that they could do something special. And as you can see today, he's worth $2 billion. And a lot of his employees are worth a lot of money as well because he is actually given them shares of the company. But a great story and shows how you can find money in everything, including yogurt. This slide is what you call a money slide. This slide is a summary of all the things you need to do to get ready to get yourself launched. So, you have to have a mission or vision. We touched on that a little bit before, but what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to stand for? And how are you going to go about it? Next, initial product or service. So you don't have to have a perfect product or service to launch. What you need is something that's viable, that you can go out there and show that it works. And then at some point later on, as you'll see later on, the boxes test the market. So just the initial product or service, and you evolve it over time. But the concept is what's important. Also, you have to have the passion and perseverance because there'll be many obstacles. There'll be many things that don't go right, and you have to push through that. And so, back to the hustle ingredient, that is interwoven in with the passion and the perseverance, because without those, you'll never make it to the finish line. Also, again, you have to differentiate. A lot of times your product or service is similar to others in the market. So therefore, how are you making it different? It may just be the color. It could be what Vidalia did with onions. I mean, their onions are a commodity, yet they would be able to convince people that this place in Georgia had better tasting, sweeter onions. So it may be a marketing edge. It could be an actual physical trait, but find some way to differentiate and not be the same as the rest. And then again, you have to test the marketplace. You have to see if the dogs will eat it. Are they as excited about the product and service as you are? Quite frankly, like we said before, it has to be about them, not you. And then who is the competition, whether direct or indirectly? Because a lot of times there's people who, they're in a product and they think that their competition is someone who does exactly what they do. And later on, they find out that maybe it's some tech company. That's why Amazon is such a threat to many companies now, because they see that Amazon has the capability to enter their business in ways that they maybe not be prepared to deal with. And then finally, once you have all this together and you can tell the right story, you go get funding to give you the runway to get this thing launched and give you some time to really test the marketplace even further and see how you can make this thing more sustainable. And then finally, hey, you got to be willing to pull the trigger. Another money slide, to my mind, and always remember, when VCs, private equity, angel investors, what they invest in, it's just like a horse race. They invest in jockeys, not horses. So when someone gets a thoroughbred horse, if they want to run in the Kentucky Derby, the first thing they do is go get the best jockey they can find. That would be you. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're the jockey, and your team helps you be the jockey. And that's what people are betting on. They're betting that you can bring it across the finish line. There's a lot of good products, good services, etc., good horses, but they have to believe in the jockey. So speaking of team, I think again, similar to the product, you don't need to have a full-blown team, but you need to, in priority order, pick the handful of people you need to pull this off, to be able to show that you can take this to market and you can deliver. And so it may just be at the time you just need an operations person and a financial person and a salesperson, whatever it takes. But don't try to go out and hire a whole bunch of people, enlist a whole bunch of people to do things, because that's just costs and maybe time wasted in the initial stages. As things grow, then you know what you need to do, who you need to bring in, but you need to collect a team that others will say, yes, this type of team, what he's put together, she's put together, is something that can make this service go or this product go. Also, you need to have an outside looking in view, and that means you need to have some type of advisory group, whether it be a mentor, advisors, outside consultants, and then a board of directors. I mean, you need to have people who've been there, done that, can give you thoughts, show you, kind of help you poke holes in some of the things you're doing, the thesis, but those who support you and will show you ways to avoid the landmines that are along the way and hopefully lead you to success. And then finally, we get to the money part, and it's just like this map shows. Sometimes it's a little treacherous to get to the funds. It's not an easy thing. If so, everybody would be funded, but most people are not. So how to get there, if you follow those steps, is a good way. And when you get to the doorstep of the funds, this is the pecking order of who you ask. So basically, you start with your own, because people want to see that you're willing to invest yourself. No one wants to invest in you if you're not willing to invest in yourself. Also, friends and family. They love you. They want to see you succeed. They're willing to contribute. Next step, in the U.S. Small Business Administration, they do a lot of lending to small business owners, so they're a good source. The step after that are banks, other types of financial institutions that do loans, etc. Then you can get into crowdfunding, which is big today, but also, again, it comes with its own strings attached, so you have to decide what you want to do, and also it's constricted by size of what you're trying to bring in. Next are incubators, accelerators, which you actually get to be with another group that helps tinker, help mentor, and usually gives you some funding to go ahead and get this thing off the ground, at least on a conceptual part. Then you get to angel investors, people who have made it successful themselves, either through business or through entrepreneurship, who want to help seed others to do the same. And so therefore, they're willing to give a certain amount of money for you to get going. But again, they also can maybe also help you lead the way. And then venture capital and even private equity, which after that, which is where you go for the really big money. And this is more after you've gotten through the seed stage, where you're really going for larger sums of money. Then you go to them, and again, your story has to be super tight, because they're very, very astute in who they give money to. But when they give money, they give in a big way, and that's what launches a lot of the companies that you see today that are out there, in rideshare and other things right now. So with that, there's three things to remember. You got to trust in the sources you get the money from. Remember the integrity part. Remember that, can these people really deliver? Do they have the funds? Many people talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, they really don't. They can't stroke the check. Also, there's usually terms, and you need to understand them. So, this is where you need to find a friend who has some type of legal background that can look through things and look through contracts to make sure you're not giving the life away or giving the store away, quite frankly, that it works for both parties, not just you or them. And then finally, I always like to tell people, you want smart money. And smart money means you get money from people who actually have other ways to help you with their investment than just give you cash. Because if they have contacts in the industry, or if they know the system, or they've actually done what you're trying to do, and they have some historical background that can help you, that's the kind of money you want, because that money is much smarter than just taking the cash itself and leaving it all to yourself. So based on what we talked about today, there's ways to, get the right opportunity. Think about it. Look at the style, yourself in the mirror, what you're trying to accomplish. Do the steps we talked about to get yourself launch ready. Have your minimal viable team together. Go out, convince someone, past family and friends, that this is a worthy endeavor to give you the cash to move forward. And then you got to be willing to pull the trigger. And just like we talked about the shuttle area earlier, here it is. It was a beautiful thing to be a part of that program. And it'll be a beautiful thing for you to be a part of your launching of your company if you pull it off. So I like to tell people, if you like Zen, leap and the net will appear. So overcome the fear and go forward, and good luck. So with that, I'm ready to take questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, John. That was inspiring and enlightening on so many levels. You shared some absolute bombs of knowledge there that just lit me up as you did. One of the key things that really stuck with me was at the very beginning, you talked about how much hustle, what makes you different, and you being an ingredient. Everybody can have the same processes, but nobody can have another John or another, whoever that person is at the helm. That's so critical, isn't it?
Almost definitely. I think that, people, once they learn how to spell entrepreneur, they realize that it isn't as easy as people think it is. That people are usually not the overnight success that the media portrays them as. Usually there's 10 years of hard work that went behind it. And then there's some pivot point that allows it to be enabled. And so I think that the steps we talked about today were things to help it be more planned than through luck, if you can do things the right way.
Absolutely. And something else that really struck me was the slide that you shared about people investing in jockeys, not horses, and
Yes.
people really wanting to be able to buy in, especially for businesses getting funding. They really want to buy in to the vision, the why, the credibility, and the drive of the people at the helm, right? So that is so critical, isn't it? And often, I know in my experience talking with young and startup and fledgling business owners, they always get caught up in the thing that they're doing, and can miss that all important criteria when it comes to looking outwardly to investment.
Sure. I mean, it's no different than in the corporate environment where I came from. A lot of companies, their stock price is based more so on how they think the company's being managed, not necessarily the product or service, even though it could be a great product or service and it's something that's needed. But they're looking to see, is there good stewardship? And it's all about the people who are running the company, and the board assesses that as well. So at the entrepreneur level, it's the same thing, except what's more singular, right? It's easier to identify. It's like, it's on you, the entrepreneur who got this thing kicked off, that, hey, are you believable? Are you going to deliver? That's why the perseverance and passion is so important, because if you don't have that, you don't project that, then people really don't have the confidence you can get things done. So, people who put their money down, they do want the best jockey. There's a lot of horses, but there's only a few jockeys that can really bring that home.
Wonderful that you say that, because realistically, that can be the difference, can't it? In a sea of people trying to do the same or similar things, that can make all of the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that comes back to the first slide of the presentation, which is about hustle. Who's willing to hustle? Who's willing to take the strides necessary to get things done that maybe others aren't willing to do, or kind of are going about it in a laissez-faire way, instead of someone who's really trying to push hard and get it done. And people can see that.
Absolutely. And so another thing that you said that really struck me was this idea of being picky, kind of, right? So not just opening up the doors to any kind of funding, but looking for funding that, what you termed smart cash. So looking for funding that actually adds value to what it is that you're trying to do, looking for funding that makes a difference to that passion and to that drive and that vision that you're trying to implement and realize. That's so critical, isn't it? That never even was on my radar, and I was like, wow, makes so much sense.
Well, I think the thing is, people need to not get their vision clouded with the outcome of making money. I mean, if you do things correctly, the money will come. So if you go about it saying money first, you tend to take shortcuts. You tend to do things that are actually maybe detrimental to your success, because you're too worried about getting your hands on the cash or having this thing make money as soon as possible. So I think you need to keep that in mind, and also work with people who are like-minded, so they're willing to give you the time to be successful, and not demand that, hey, I got to get a return right away, because then they're putting undue pressure on you, and that's another problem as well. Also, are they really sharing the vision, or they're just sharing, the bank account? So you want those who say, hey, I'm with you, let's do what it takes, I've liked your ideas, we're going to help guide you along the way, and we're going to fund you to give you the runway to make it happen. But it's important to who you partner with, just as important to pick a partner on your team. Picking a financial partner is equally as important, because they hold the keys to your future when it comes to the money, but also, you want to make sure you got the right integrity and the right people that you can stand with and say, look people in the eye and say things are being done the right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when it comes to navigating your way through this what can be a minefield of finding investment, finding the right investment, you mentioned something quite critical, I think, which is this idea of having an outside in look to what you're doing and having support and people that have walked the path before you, advisors, mentors, coaches. There are a number of different ways that you can do that. What are some tips and some advice for people that are kind of stuck looking at the wood for what they say, can't see the wood for the trees, How do people go about seeking and finding the right outside help in that process, John? What would be
Sure.
right?
Sure. I think here's where it's better to, like, some people, they tend to hide what they're doing. They figure, hey, I got to keep this very secret because I don't want anyone to steal my idea. But chances are, if you have special things you could do, it doesn't matter. I mean, they still need you to pull it off. So I would share with the people you trust what you're trying to accomplish and have that network kind of bring people to you that can help you in your journey, because you need that. You need help. You can't usually pull it off by yourself. And so using other people's knowledge, knowing what you don't know, is equally as important as what you do know. And by knowing what you don't know, then you can get people to help augment that and supplement that and help you along your way. And also, be surprised that some people might want to jump in and help for various reasons, or it gives them a new lease on life because they're bored with what they're doing, and therefore they want to participate with you and go along for the ride. And that's fun too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess, they say that you don't know what you don't know. And often it's what you don't know that you need to know,
Yeah.
I've confused
Especially when it's
myself a
new.
little bit there, man. Yeah. Especially when it's new. And so looking externally for people to give you that, to stretch your thinking in that way is so critical, I guess.
Yes. And again, you're going to have to take feedback. And sometimes feedback is hard to take because everyone may not be as encouraged about the idea as you are. And what you have to sort out is it valid feedback? Now, in some cases, it's just naysayers who don't like to take risks, and therefore they just, hey, they dismiss things that are new. But if it's valid, if what they say holds truth, then you need to deal with it. Can I address it and overcome it, or do I need to do something different? And I think it's always good to have that retrospective look and have others to be able to be a sounding board, so that you can really test this thing before you get out in the market, because the market is ruthless. If you spend a lot of money to build something, put it out there, and no one buys it, that's a harsh lesson to learn when you could have learned along the way and avoided that.
Absolutely. And I guess that comes back to what you talked about around minimum viable product, creating a product that doesn't have to be perfect and completely finished, but a product that you're able to validate and test quite early on. I guess that must play an important role in the process, John.
Yes. I mean, I think, again, the whole process is important, which is why I like to tell people there's a path, there's a journey to get there. It isn't just, how do I get money, or can I just launch this thing on a dime? It's usually takes some planful thought, some tensions, some conflict, some broken glass that you got to walk over. But it's usually worth it when you get it done. And also, it gives you a better understanding. So once you even launch and when you encounter adversity, those are probably some things that you've already thought about, and now you're prepared to handle it. And that's why the whole journey is important, not just the end result or just the beginning or just a piece in between. It all ties together. And I always tell people it's a continuum, and you got to go through it. And the more you do it, the better prepared you are to be successful.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess this is where having that real solid connection to what's driving you, what the vision is, what your why you are moved to bring this thing into the world that you want to do, that, because that's got to be tested every single day, I guess.
Sure. Oh, yeah. That's why you have to have that passion and perseverance that I mentioned, because not everybody shares the same vision. Thankfully, right? That's why the world's so different, because we have people thinking different things. But it's okay to be a groundbreaker. It's okay to try something new, and it's actually exhilarating. But sometimes some of the things don't have to be groundbreaking. They don't have to be transformational. They can be very simple fixes to what people do every day, and someone sees a simple solution and wonder why no one's put into place. Probably because people didn't think it was worthy of addressing, and you can address it and make plenty of money doing that. So you don't have to launch the shuttle. You might just come up with a new package for a box of cookies or something, and you could do just fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. John, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us there today. It was truly enlightening. I think I took quite a few nuggets away there of really insightful information, and it was really great, man. So it was really useful. I think this idea of connection is the bit that we miss an awful lot. You know, the sense of connection between you as the lead, the helm, the jockey, right? That was so powerful, and that resonated really deeply, man, really deeply. And not focusing entirely on the mechanical elements of the vehicle or the horse or whatever that is, but focusing on creating that connection with the right people to either guide you along the path or the right people to fund you to take you to that next level of path as well. It was good, man. It was really good.
Well, thank you, and it was an honor just to be a part of this. And if just one thing I said today is of value to people, then I feel my job's well done. I speak around the country on different things regarding entrepreneurship, and to me, the pleasure for me is to see that it benefits people and helps people, understand some of the things it took me a while to learn. And so therefore, if that wisdom can be of use to someone else, I'm all for it. And I appreciate things like this Entrepreneur Hotline to give people that ample opportunity to talk to many different people, to get perspectives and to take their dream forward. So good luck. Since you got inspired, hopefully we'll see you launch something as well. But thanks a lot, Colin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And just before we wrap up, John, how can people kind of connect with you and find out a bit more about your company and what it is that you're doing?
Sure. Well, I believe my email is on the speaker details. If it's not, then let me know and I'll provide it. It's 1jjweb@gmail.com. That's 1jjweb@gmail.com. People have a question, want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to respond.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Good luck with the rest of the conference.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye.
What a wonderful and insightful talk from John Webb there. An actual rocket science that helps companies to secure venture capital and funding. Such an insightful talk that really lit up so many light bulb moments for me during that talk. So wonderful. Thank you so much, John, for sharing. And we'll be on with the next segment real soon.